ready.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name's Brian Foreman. This is the Board of Electrical Examiners meeting for March 7th. Let's see. Before we start, let's just go around the room with a roll call so that it's noted who is present at this meeting.
Bill Baldwin, member.
Victor Shepard, member. Bill Mackey, Director Planning Zoning.
Craig Busick, MDIA.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. If we look at the agenda, let's take a few minutes to review the January meeting minutes. We have a draft of it available for you, and take a few minutes to see if there's anything you want to add or change to it. Everybody had a chance to look at it. You have a motion to adopt the minutes?
I've got a question.
Sure.
In this general discussion, we were saying we were going to meet on the second Thursday instead of the first Thursday. And you have it down in the minutes that we were supposed to meet on the 14th, which would be the second Thursday. Are we going to still keep the first Thursday, or are we going to the second Thursday? We brought that up and did discuss it a little bit because you had another meeting following this on the first Thursday or something like that.
Planning Commission, yeah. I mean, Brian, I don't, how do you want to do it?
Is there a, is the middle of the month busier for you guys, or does it make, that doesn't make a difference? It's
It's time you have set aside regardless.
right. How about you, Bill?
It doesn't matter to me, but whatever easiest for you guys. It's always been the first Thursday for ever.
Right.
I just got it in my mind, but whatever's works for you.
Oh, I have a thought. A thought could be that perhaps we can keep it as it is now, the first Thursday, and then when the new trade board comes in, then we can see how their schedule is. Will that work? And then just keep it as is?
Whatever.
Seems like
Okay.
a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Nice idea.
All right. First Thursday.
Okay, and with that being said, if we want to segue into the all trades board discussion, that
I wasn't sure if Craig wanted to do his electrical vehicle thing first.
Do you want to adopt the minutes other than that?
This is going to take some time.
Okay,
okay.
I'm good.
I'll second. Okay, all right, thanks, Brian. So I'm just going to pass around copies of a draft I put together. This has changes to Chapter 3, which is building construction, and Chapter 192, Part 2, which is the electrical board. So all in all, as I got into this, there's more and more things that this touches on. So I'm actually going to be amending 5 chapters in the public laws. But these are the 2 I think that have the most to do with you all and touch on you. I do have to change plumbing. I do have to change some other building stuff. So there's lots of things that we're behind on. So this is sort of some proposed revisions. And then I wanted to provide you with Talbot's all construction trades board and maybe walk through it with you all and see what you agree with and don't agree with, because this is a pretty good model. I don't think we want to do all that they do, but I was just thinking this would be, instead of me trying to draft something out of the blue from scratch, start with this as the starting point, and then walk through with you all and see what you'd like to keep and not keep. Sort of, what would your recommendations be on this particular bill, and then we can amend it. So. And the additions in the first item are all, the bold, all caps are new words, and strike-throughs are deletions. And I can make a quick summary. The first, most of building construction is updating it to have all the codes that we use, making sure we recognize that MDIA is our building official. Again, referencing the codes. Craig went through and made some changes to what we have, some recommendations. Updating automatic residential fire sprinkler. We have a whole series of stuff that isn't really applicable anymore, so it strikes everything and just references state law. And then it basically refers to that construction trades board that we'll be creating, and kind of walks through how citations work, and moving the responsibility for citations from the code administrator, which is technically Craig, to Brian, who is code enforcement. So, and then we're ensconcing in law our current practice about how we do registration. So we're removing all the licensure language and doing registration. So, and basically I'm just putting into law what our current practice is based on what the state mandated. So, and the heart of that is on, starts on page 9. Nope, sorry, starts on page 8. With what people have to submit. And to me, that's the most important part is, do we have the right things to submit?
So we're doing away with the letter of good standing?
Well, because the letter of good standing is meant for reciprocal licensing between counties, and there isn't any. You got to go to the state. There's no need to reciprocate anything. Everybody has to have a state license, so.
Everybody's the same here.
Yeah. And really, part of it is I'm kind of taking this board out of that section completely, and then you all will be incorporated. I'm taking, we have a reserve chapter 210. It was something a long time ago. It's just an empty chapter, and I'm going to create the whole thing for the, all boards in that chapter, so it'll all be together in a new place, which I'm hoping to model after Talbot, so. And usually I like to get things to you ahead of time, but I literally finished this last night at like 6 o'clock.
So we'll still need a letter of good standing for the state in order to reciprocate with Delaware or other places? Or that,
I think that still has to come from the counties.
How do other states work, huh?
Try to get that out from the state.
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
Wouldn't they still have to go, wouldn't they have to reciprocate through the state of Maryland?
It does reciprocate with your license out through the state, but I think you need to get that letter of good standing through your county.
Okay.
Where you're registered.
I don't
We just
know.
registered with Virginia, that's the only, they've asked us for all that stuff.
Okay, if you don't mind, I think I'll reach out to DLLR and see what they
Yeah.
say. Maybe they have a standard letter or something we can use. All righty.
And the other states might not want it, or might not need it, I don't know.
Right.
Okay, that's a good point, thank you. And on page 11, when you get there, Craig, I wanted to ask you about how in-plant stuff should work.
It's unnecessary at this point
Okay.
because the in-plant inspection was for an in-plant electrical license,
Right,
which you can't
Which-
issue anymore.
okay,
So they basically have to get an inspection if they do some work there,
okay.
the normal avenues.
Have they been notified, or they will be?
Yes, it will be when they call for their
There's only two.
So,
Angelica and,
The Dixon?
well, there was three, it was
Oh.
Angelica, Dixon, and Georgetown Yacht Basin.
Well, Georgetown Yacht Basin has changed hands.
And also the gentleman who was in charge of that is retired now. So I'm not even sure they have an electrician on site anymore.
Okay, so we might be down to one. Would you be willing to reach out, Brian?
Sure, to Angelica and Dixon.
It sounds like Craig's saying Dixon doesn't do it anymore anyway.
Oh,
No,
Oh.
none of them have.
Oh, none of them have, oh, so
I
they've all
mean-
stopped?
Yeah, I mean, since, last time I did it was prior to COVID.
Oh,
Obviously, COVID screwed everything up.
Right.
And I haven't been back to do that. And during COVID, the licensing changed. So I haven't been contacted to do one of these, since 2019 probably.
Okay.
So suppose when they call, they would find out unless you reach out to them.
We could be proactive, it's only three.
okay. And
And you
In
probably
fact,
have
the
a,
gentleman who did the same job at Angelica did retire, I think, and then was just coming back to
just
meet
to
me.
do that. Oh, okay.
You know?
Oh, wow.
So I'm not even sure he's still doing it, so.
Okay.
and I'm not sure how, I'm sure it's more than I realize, but how much electrical work is now being done at Angelica?
Last time I went, they had put up one or two greenhouses. Not large scale, but small scale, which needed wiring for motors and sprayers
Sure,
and things of
sure.
that nature. You go into their workshop and, we replace this receptacle. We fix that light, that sort of stuff.
So basically, what I'm gonna tell them is that they're electrician has to be a master electrician licensed with the state and
And if they have electrical work,
registered with
yeah.
us.
They have to, if they do any work, they have to fill out an application for inspection and call us to do the inspection, just like a new electrical service or something at somebody's house.
Sure, sure. So it's Angelica, and who are the other two?
Dixon and Georgetown Yacht Basin.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, there was a fourth. What used to be DuPont, whatever, the Cortiva or
Where Chuck is
where
working.
Chuck went, yeah. They were one as well.
Still call it Remington Farms,
Yeah, well,
wearing a shirt. Okay. Yeah, I'll put a, letter together, send it to them. Sorry, with you, I'd like to put your MDIA number for them to contact with any questions.
Okay. I was wondering if we could walk through the Talbot regs and just see what you all think about it.
Talbot or Caroline?
I'm sorry, it's Caroline.
Throwing me off here.
I apologize. I got one from Talbot as well, so. So it establishes the board, it lets that board serve as the Board of Appeals for the IBC.
The appointed members, HVAC is a journeyman.
Yeah, it should be
That should be a
master.
Okay. Thank you. And I think instead of the at-large members, I don't think we're going to do 9, I think we're going to do 7. I remember you had said there should be somebody who is like a design professional of some kind. I remember you mentioning that. So like an architect, surveyor, land, that sort of area. And I was going to say, with some language for that Board of Appeals has to be, what was that? Some- So in the requirement for the Board of Appeals, there has to be a licensed architect or professional engineer, construction superintendent, or general contractor with at least 10 years' experience. So I was thinking we could sort of build that as one of that sort of other members. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's 6 and 7. So make 6 that category with the 10 years' experience, licensed professional, one of those 4 things. And then we'd have a 7th slot. So what do you think we're missing?
Well, I don't know if we want to change on page 2E, it says no current employees of the county shall serve on the board.
I think we should keep that.
I'm okay with that, but
How about our MDIA representative? Like,
Serving on the board?
yeah, have an official slot. I mean, you don't have to say yes, but it seems like it to me is a natural.
I would have to ask whether that's something that the company wants me to do.
Okay. And the other option is that could be that sort of member-at-large person, a person who's not involved in the trades or anything else, they're just sort of a citizen member. So that's the other option a lot of boards like this might have.
You're thinking still 4 members on that at-large?
No, just one.
Just one?
The list that's here, the two electricians, a plumber, journeyman, a contractor, design professional.
A contractor, though, is gonna be all of these people. All of these people are contractors.
So maybe that's the
You're thinking
GC?
a building contractor? Is that like a general contractor
General contractor.
Okay,
instead of just contractor?
GC,
Well,
okay.
A licensed home improvement contractor,
Yeah.
is what it's stated. So you would need 2 then at that, if we're trying to fill 7 slots, is that right? So do 2 at large?
We could do 2 at large, or do you want to do, should we do 2 plumbers? Is that going to be hard to
That was my
make happen?
first thought, it was 2 plumbers, but,
Okay,
you know, I'm happy to sit on the board if I'm not gonna get myself in trouble.
right. Well, I don't want you to get you in trouble,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and it
I
might
mean,
not be a problem at all, just one of those things you need to check in.
Right, yeah, I appreciate asking,
You're
and,
in
and
trouble
maybe
every
having
day.
2 plumbers means if somebody's absent, we can still talk about
My
plumbing.
nickname's Trouble.
Your nickname's trouble.
So we could keep that as 1 with the idea that maybe MDIA
Right.
member sits there,
Okay.
or second plumber.
Or a second contractor.
True. Then there's, then it's sort of the, how do you set up a staggered board? How do the commissioners fill vacancies? And then, I don't think we'll have a committee. I don't think we're gonna need a committee, because this is old enough, or I think this is still under the days of licensing, I think just having the full board will be sufficient to discuss issues. One thing I did find interesting is the members at large, one of their requirements for them is intelligence. I'm not exactly sure how you tell someone, we're not gonna appoint you because of your I mean, it's an interesting term. I'm like, okay.
That's-
I wouldn't want to be the person to try to convey that as a requirement.
One thought I had, just looking at those.
Yeah.
Going back to that number of 9.
Yes.
If we always said, hey, we want a minimum of 7, but up to 9, that would allow for always having two of each trade.
Okay.
6, 7, 8, and then 1 at large, which
Okay.
there, that's up to, it doesn't really matter to me. It just gives us that option. If someone is missing, you hope that with the idea that we'd have
You still
a
have enough members to
representative
make a
right,
decision.
from each trade always here.
We have another board that we did that with. That was a minimum of 7, a maximum of 9, so the number of members can fluctuate based on who's available to be appointed. I think it was Agriculture Advisory Commission we did that with, so we actually have language we can,
It would have to be 7 or 9, correct?
right, otherwise you get an even number and you can't, right, you get
Can't
tie
do that.
votes, yeah. Okay.
Are we still doing term limits, or?
I don't want to do term limits. It's very hard to find people to serve, so,
Right, that's
unless you all recommend it, but I would,
C, under B,
yeah.
or at C, I should say.
So let's just
Well,
go,
it's
so
gonna
if
be
we
a
had
lifetime
9, if,
commitment. So set that as a lifetime commitment.
there you go, yeah. Might be. So if, let's just go back, so if we had 9, you're viewing that as 2 electricians, 2 plumbers, 2 HVC?
No, I was just thinking up to 9, right? So
Okay.
either 7 or 9.
All right, so then it's,
If we had people interested in doing that.
okay, and just kind of add them in wherever their interest is.
Because as I'm
Okay.
thinking about that and talking about it, a lot of HVAC and plumbing runs together.
Yeah, I was thinking the
Yeah,
same
no.
thing,
So
if
maybe,
you have somebody
maybe I'm
who's
overthinking that.
multidisciplined, it can't be 2 board
I know
members.
we've talked to Rick,
Right,
and so he's got both, he's got all 3, right?
Mike,
Mike Starkey's,
well,
Multidiscipline, I like that.
When we were an electric board, which we still are, I guess, but
Yeah.
we were talking to Brian at Tri-State. Are we still thinking about bringing someone in like that or not?
He could be your ninth.
So the commissioners do the appointing. So what I would do is, instead of having us reach out to him, if you can provide me the contact information, when we get ready for appointments, I can say to the commissioners, there's been a suggestion from the board, do you want me to reach out? Because they may already have people in mind, right? We've been talking about this for 6 months, so I don't want to sort of make an invite to someone and then they don't get appointed.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm guessing this Brian knows who that Brian is.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll have the information of who you all think would be a good addition. And believe me, county commissioners appreciate that kind of information, but I just don't want to jump the gun, so. Yeah.
Right, and, you know, that being said, all of the county commissioners have had work done
a good
on their
point.
properties.
Yeah.
And, you know, they may, you know more than we think they know. For instance, Albert would be a great person to have on the board, but I don't know if that would be double dipping. And I'm sure he's got too much other things to do, but
I'm sure he knows a lot of people who he might be able to ask to serve, and they would say yes, yeah, so that'd be great.
right.
So I just like to leave those things open-ended, so they get to drive the bus. And the rest of it is pretty much standard construction. I mean, this is creating a board. So, and I guess the only thing that I would love to kind of get from you all on this is, what kind of duties do you think you all as a group would do? I mean, obviously, for me, the most important duty is you're going to advise staff, tell us what to do on some of these things that we just have no idea. You know, we run into issues with permits and processes and people doing stuff, and it's great to get your all's professional advice. But what things do you sort of want to do as a board? What do you think, what utility to the county do you think you could serve as this sort of expanded role?
I think it's essentially giving a voice to the rest of the trades, and not just the electricians. Kind of the same thing we do now. Any issue that comes up, that's pretty much every issue is unforeseen.
Yes, indeed, a lot of black swans.
So whatever may come up,
Okay.
we have a across the board, general idea of how all trades are thinking about a particular problem.
Okay. Is there anything special about plumbing that I should know about? We have, yeah, well, there you go. That's what I was thinking might be a response there, so.
Being recorded.
We're specially empowered by the state to do certain things in the plumbing area. There's state law about Kent County and plumbing.
Yeah, it more has to do with critical area.
Okay.
And backflow prevention is the county issue with plumbing.
So critical area matters, okay. Anything else?
Nothing jumps out,
Yeah.
just general issues,
And I-
code changes, things of that nature.
Right, okay. And I think I told you, I mean, now that you're sort of transitioning to the board, I maybe a couple months ago, I told Mike O'Neill, we're not going to issue homeowner licenses anymore, period. I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that we have no one to test them, we have no expertise in that matter, and we're going to hand over a license for someone to do plumbing in a house, and we have no idea what their expertise level is. So I just said, as a policy matter, we're going to stop. So, and now we'll be changing the code, so that part of the code will go away, but I just think it's too high risk. Once upon a time, when, Rick was here and knew all that, he could test them and they would really be tested, but we don't have that expertise in-house, so
granting
For
them.
plumbing, we never had to do
Yeah, I was
this.
gonna say, I don't think we ever gave a test for
You could just say
plumbing.
you're doing your plumbing and
That
you
was,
sign an affidavit and that's it.
if you were the homeowner, you were permitted to do your plumbing as
Yeah,
long as it
live
was
on premises.
inspected. And that's where, Alan and Craig really had to hold people's hands throughout the project.
Okay, well, that's, well, we're not doing that anymore, so we stopped.
So when, by stopping that, how do we deal with homeowners that want to do their own stuff? Whether it's electrical, plumbing,
They're gonna have to
you
get
know,
an
I think that's
electrician or a
things,
plumber.
you know,
Well, each
you know
code
what,
book
each, you
gives
know,
provisions of how much of that work you're allowed to do.
we get calls for people wanting us to come inspect their work and we'll sign off on it, call the inspections in, right?
That's,
You know, so what do we do as a county for that? How do we, you know, I sort of feel like it needs to be addressed at some point. Well, I don't know if today's definitely the day for that, but it needs to be brought up to, hey, how do we deal with this? Or are we, is it something that we say, hey, that's what they need to do? Because there's obviously people that are doing their own work and then all of a sudden they find out they can't get inspection and then it's.
so they might have to pay to have an electrician come through and redo all the work. I mean,
So
to me, it's a,
To redo it or to
Certified.
certify it?
I guess whatever,
That's-
whatever the
And
electrician's
technically,
comfortable with.
according to the new legislation, unless that person is a journeyman, you could farm your license out to a journeyman legally now. But usually a
Isn't that-
homeowner's not a journeyman. And then therefore that work is not valid, none of it. So technically, they should tear it all out and
Dig it all
and
out and
redo
start
it.
over.
Maybe fines could be an
Certainly
option.
would be fines, yeah.
I just feel like we end up being the police for it or the, you know, the bearer of bad news, if nothing else.
Right.
And
And that's, you know.
unfortunately, the people that get in this situation are the same people that didn't get the building permit to
Right.
begin with.
Oftentimes, they know what they're doing.
Right, right. So, and, you know, as far as our staff, when somebody's applied for a building permit, they have to list the registered electrician that's gonna do the work. And as a matter of fact,
So every permit is listed in Kent County of who the,
and we're knuckling down on, we're not allowing people to put in there to be determined, which we did in the past. Now it's like, okay, who's gonna do your electric? And we double check that they have a current registration with Kent County.
Queen Anne's County make you pull it yourself. For an electric or plumbing license. You have to go over to Queen Anne's County office, plumber, or, I don't know about plumbing, the electrician does.
yeah, we email them all over to them, but yeah.
And that's because they issue the electrical permit, whereas Kent County doesn't have an electrical permit. So that's kind of how they get to hold their feet to the fire, because they're in control of the paperwork.
But it's really a good way to do it. That way it's done at the very beginning.
Right.
Might be something in the future to think about.
So,
We got enough going on now, but.
I mean, I mean, we require that they have to list the electrician doing the work, or we don't issue the permit, correct?
That hasn't been a steadfast rule.
Okay.
We have issued it with to be determined.
Okay.
Different directors told us to do different things over the years.
Okay. What are we doing now?
I think a little of both.
Okay. Why don't we do the electrician must be,
Sure.
and I'm happy to take the calls.
Okay.
All trades,
Yeah, all true.
All trades.
all trades
Yeah,
should be
please,
listed.
absolutely.
Because HVAC is supposed to be, are we
It honestly, it helps
licensed?
me out when I go to do an inspection.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times there's nobody on site and I have an issue with something and I want to make a phone call to somebody.
You need to know who to
I
call.
need to look at the permit and see, and a lot of times, you know, the electrician will be listed maybe, but the other trades aren't, and that sort of thing.
I wasn't aware we weren't fully doing that, so let's fully do that. And then, and to me, the bigger picture is what's really important in this area. So I think it's 3 years, the county is evaluated and our building processes, how we do things, records are checked, remember the ISO thing that we did with Mike? So, and insurance rates for everyone in the county are based on how good a job we're doing on permits and enforcement. So literally, everyone in the county's insurance rates will go up if we're not doing a good job. So we did a lot the last time we had that evaluation, making changes and getting things so that we would get a good rating, so people would get good insurance, right? And for the individual homeowner, right, who does all this illegal work and doesn't want to pass it, I mean, if their insurance company finds out about it, they might just be completely uninsured. I mean, that happens. So, and try to get a mortgage on that house in the future. I mean, there's a bigger system. It's designed to protect everyone, and everyone participates, just like insurance, just like, general good laws. So I think it's important that we, I just want to remind us, this isn't about, we got a law and you got to follow it. That law serves a huge purpose and really affects everyone in the county at the end, so.
Good way to put that. Understanding that, on our aspect, I had no clue that that went that far into
Yeah.
how our insurance rates, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because if you live somewhere where they don't do any inspections ever, stuff burns down all the time, and there's a lot more liability, so the insurance company's going to charge a lot more.
Especially for like the homeowner license for plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
You can ruin a house pretty quick,
Yep.
not gluing one fitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, cool. All righty.
Ready to get in the House Bill 830?
Here we go.
Sure. As of October 1st, I believe, October 1st, 2023, every new home, significantly renovated home with a panel upgrade has to have an electric vehicle charging station, an EV-ready parking space, or an EVSE installed parking space. So,
Sure.
you have to either install a charger for, say, like a Tesla, something like that. If they don't have a car or an electric vehicle, they still have to be supplied with a means to charge an electrical vehicle, which would be a minimum of 30 amp circuit, 240 volt capacity in a raceway with a NEMA 1450R receptacle. Now, if it's a condo, and each condo unit has a driveway, parking space, or a garage, these two requirements have to be on site. If the building does not have any of those and it's communal parking, you have to have one EV charger parking space per 25 residents of that building.
Nice.
So this is already in effect.
The wording there on that EV ready, the one that sort of hits me right away is in raceway wiring, right? Circuit panel capacity, a lot of residential.
Well, I had an electrician call me yesterday for talking about this, and he brought up a good point. If the electric panel's in the garage, great. You run a few feet of conduit and set a receptacle. If the panel is in the basement on the opposite side of the house, you're still gonna have to run a conduit from that panel all the way through the basement, up through the walls and into the garage to get to an outlet for that.
So even though we don't have an EV, still has to be a receptacle there.
I think it's making every house ready.
Yeah.
So if
The
we
government's
have
back-
the
going
conduit there,
backwards now on
would the wiring need to be in place for it? That's
Yeah, it says, the only thing where it says it doesn't need to be would be in a multifamily residential building, so a condo building. You can have level 2 charging, which means the charging capability of electrical vehicle includes the ability to charge a battery or any other electrical energy storage device in an electric vehicle through the means of alternating current. Where did I read it?
With a minimum of
There
208
we go.
volts.
A dedicated electric line of sufficient voltage to support a later addition of an electric vehicle charging station capable of providing at least level 2 charging. So that's in a condo building. You can run it to a box in the parking lot, put a blank cover on it, and be ready for it. Wire's got to be there. But single-family dwellings,
That explains why Slippery Hill was calling us, trying to hurry up and get these EV chargers put in. Are you enforcing this at this point, or does this go in later this year with when we adopted 23?
it's, if you look at the very last sentence, and should be further enacted that this act shall take effect October 1st, 2023. So we have supposed to be doing it since then.
How do we go back on, permits that have already been pulled and?
It also
that's
says in
already
there,
done?
anything prior to October 1st.
Right, but
Doesn't
I'm
matter.
saying even without the knowledge that this was, as a county, going through and enforcing it.
I don't really have an answer for that, Victor. As far as me being able to say you don't have to do it, I can't.
Right.
So, from my point of view, I think it's justifiable. I'm not an attorney, but I'm just gonna say what I think is, I think it would be easy enough to flag all the residential units that applied for permits after October 1st, right? So that you've actually, you're starting from 0 after October 1st, then you would need to do that. I don't know how many of those would be done by now, probably not any, right? So we could certainly tell people who are on the way, hey, don't forget, state law said in October 1st, you got to do blah, blah, blah. I mean, their professional should know that, their trade guy should know that. So we can let them know, don't forget to do that. But I can't imagine that someone who pulled a permit on October 2nd is getting their CO this week, right? I mean, that seems, if they are, I'd love to know how they did that. That would be pretty amazing construction techniques.
A few contractors that could do it.
The thing
The
is,
modular homes.
Oh, sure, the delivered
Quick,
ones, that
yeah.
makes sense. Well, but
Yeah.
let's just, if you can give us a list, I mean, we only do 24 houses a year, it's 2 a month, so we're probably talking 6 or 8 establishments since October 1st. So October, November, December, January, February, okay, maybe, we'll throw in March, maybe 14 at the most, would be my guess, yeah. And can we just reach out to them and remind them if that's not on their scope?
I guess you had a
Is
copy of
it
this.
possible to send out an email to the registered electricians of Kent County pointing this bill out to them?
Yes.
You were saying conduit. No MC?
Says a raceway. Says EV-ready parking space means a dedicated parking space has full circuit installation of a minimum 30 amp, 208, 240 volt circuit panel capacity, raceway wiring,
See that?
and a NEMA 1450R
Oh, gosh.
receptacle.
Delegate Terrassa. Beth, can you also get me the email for whoever the POC, the point of contact is for the building permits that I just described? Anybody who came in and applied that applied for a building permit, that, or I guess.
You got all the giggles that I got.
Since October
Man,
1st.
really?
Yeah, I mean,
However
then it's
many
also
that is.
asking
I guess-
for
I guess
the
it's-
circuit overcurrent.
Because I'll send them a separate
Which-
email that says.
That's
This
gonna
is
be a
going
GFI.
by the 23 electric code, mind you. It's
Thank
got to be
you
a
for
GFI
That's what
breaker.
I was just thinking. So now
GFI
you-
240
Now
volt,
you've got a
50 amp
$100 and some
breaker.
dollar breaker sitting there that
Yes.
this is a pretty expensive add-on
Absolutely.
to any home, unless that panel box is in the garage and you can pay 3 foot. I mean, it's still, it's a few $100s regardless.
Now, one thing that was confusing as far as it's written to me, significant renovations means any renovations to a housing unit that includes electric panel upgrades that increase the capacity of the panel. So my question was, if you're not upgrading the panel, but it's a significant upgrade to the house, is that required, or are they saying both? I had a hard time wrapping my head around that sentence.
Do they mean amperage or circuits?
I think they're saying that if you're upgrading the panels, the way I'm reading that, then you have to do it.
Right, but if you're not upgrading it, that's kind of how I read it, but
No, I mean, it
But I
says
can- I've-
significant renovations. Any renovations of the housing unit so it's, anytime you do a significant renovation, it has to be done. Or if
If
you're
you
doing
upgrade the panel.
renovations and you're upgrading the panels, you gotta do it, is the way I read that.
or even if you're doing a heavy up.
Right. Which you're
No
more likely gonna.
renovations in the house at all, just going from 150 amp to 200
Well,
amp
if you have a
service.
100 amp service and you're adding a level 2 EV charger, you're more than likely don't have enough service there to run that EV charger anyways.
Right,
A lot of 200 amp services are very borderline.
yeah, I mean, pretty much have to put in like a 60-40 panel.
Well, I'm not talking about breaker space, I'm just talking about load
Well, and there's that too.
on it.
So, with the, for instance, and I know you do a lot of solar work, would, say someone's putting solar panels on their roof and they need, to change their panel, then they're gonna need to put
That, we gotta,
then they're gonna need to put one of these in. Whether that is considered a significant addition,
How I read this is, they're defining the term just for this section of the law. And just in this section of the law, a significant renovation means anything that includes an electrical panel upgrade,
right.
that increases the capacity of the panel.
okay.
So to me, that would mean if if I split it into 3 boxes and I spread everything around, that's not increasing capacity, right? So that wouldn't count. And the whole thing about trenching around parking spaces, we're probably not going to have that occur here. That's more likely multifamily condo stuff.
The word capacity is a problem. Is it breaker space or is it ampacity?
That's what I said.
That's not very, this is the one part of the whole thing that is confusing to me. What do I consider a significant renovation?
And I think it's defining it to tell you that anytime a panel upgrade increases the capacity of the panel, that's what, for the purposes of this
Right, but
bill,
what are they
is
defining
significant.
capacity of the panel? That's my question.
Right, that I can't answer for you.
Yep.
So if there weren't a bill and someone said to you, oh, I'm increasing the capacity of my panel, what would you think what would you think they were doing?
I would say ampacity or breaker space,
Okay.
because there's a difference. I mean, you could swap out your panel and not change the meter or ampacity coming in and go from a 40-circuit panel to a 60-circuit panel. That's an increase in spaces,
Right.
but not an increase in ampacity. Whereas you could go from 150 amp service and you need to upgrade because you're getting a new HVAC unit or something. So you increase the ampacity to a 200 amp.
Right.
So
That
it's
would
two different things.
definitely be a
It's two different
capacity
things.
change. Right. So, but you wouldn't consider just adding breakers to be an increase?
You could.
You could.
That's my point. You could consider both.
Well, then maybe we should consider both. I'm just saying, whatever normal course of business is, just do what you would normally, consider it however you would normally consider it. That part is not defined, so I'm assuming that they're assuming there's a term of art, which is called panel or capacity of the panel. So that term of art is what you all know. again, I'm just reading the tea leaves here.
And they,
Every job's different.
Mm-hmm.
So you could work this sentence into a lot of different scenarios.
Right, and I get that. I don't have the specific scenarios in my head, but I understand that sort of grayness. So then and again, I'm just trying to be helpful. It would appear to me that the intent of the law, especially with the second part, if you happen to be trenching around the parking spaces, right, that's the perfect time to put in an underground conduit. So, and increasing the capacity of the panel, it looks like they want just, if there's the opportunity to add this because you're already doing something, that's when you add something. So adding that service for the electrical charging unit, right, would be a good thing to do or a convenient thing to do when you're increasing a certain kind of capacity? Would that be ampacity? If I'm gonna add a 240 volt line into the house, is that an ampacity issue?
It's electrical theory. It really, like I said, it depends on the situation, whereas
Well, if we're bringing this issue up, there's gonna be a lot of other people. They might
That's
have to
true.
make an amendment to that, but that still leaves you in a predicament between now and then.
right, predicament is really only
Thank you.
mine, is whether
Yeah.
I make somebody do it or not, and
Right.
trying to decide that based on this wording kind of just leaves it up for interpretation per job.
Yeah,
But
and that might be the idea.
It also, it's not only the new single-family dwellings that it affects.
No.
It's.
Anybody doing electrical
anybody
work.
that's, you know, coming in to have work done.
These guys go in and, do a panel upgrade, you're gonna have to add it.
yeah, I mean, I see that this really needs to be sent out to more than just our electricians in the county, our builders, you know.
Well,
They're,
here's
you know,
another, go into the depths of it back here.
What page, you know,
It is,
what number?
the builder or builder's agent shall give to each buyer or prospective buyer notice of options listed in the subsection and specific information about available rebate programs related to the purchase or installation of electric vehicle charging stations. That's the builder or the builder's agent.
Correct. I mean,
Where-
from
so
my
where
point of
you at?
view,
That's not you guys, that's the contractor.
Where were you reading from?
Page 3, 1 EV ready parking space,
Which is number,
2,
14.
Dead center of the
or
page.
number 14.
Line 14, I see, I'm with you. Thank you.
yeah, I do have to say, you know, I mean, I'm happy to send out a copy of this to the folks that are registered electricians, just as an FYI. But I don't want to start taking the role on the county is suddenly responsible to alert people in the county of the 1,000 pieces of legislation that pass the General Assembly each year. I mean, if it was my responsibility, I would assume that somewhere in the bill, it would say, county shall notify, blah, 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 blah. So we can do a little bit of courtesy, but I don't want to get too crazy, because I don't want people to rely on us, because I can't provide that service. People in the construction trades who are licensed to do business in Maryland need to know what the law says.
I agree with you there. On the same token, I had no idea that this had passed.
Neither did I.
You
I'm
know?
surprised that Mulek
You know,
didn't
and that-
bring it up. It seems pretty big. I mean, I got notice of this in the
In
fall
effect in
through,
October,
I think it might have been Mako. So I was aware that this was
and
happening.
every house that we have bid, that's,
Since?
hasn't started building yet,
Doesn't include this.
is, you know.
Yeah.
up
How,
to-
I mean,
you know,
how,
that could be up to a couple $1,000s
yeah.
Easy,
cost right there.
yeah.
Do you all have like a
So that's
Maryland
what-
Trade Association that you're members of?
I am
don't think
a
so.
little bit through IECC, but they haven't even notified us of this.
It's like for my profession, I mean, anytime there's
Which I'm
state
gonna-
law that affects planning, I get information from the Maryland Department of Planning. I mean, they have regular
We're
meetings,
members of
pump stuff
MBOA,
out.
Maryland Building Officials
Okay.
Association. We didn't hear anything from them.
Yikes.
When did you get this?
I was sent this, last week from Vivian.
Okay.
And Vivian's the one who let me know.
In Queen Anne's County. So I don't know how this works. Are there inspection agencies involved in this and/or master electricians for all the house bills when do they know what they're doing?
When they write this legislation? No, it's legislated, it's people who are elected.
This is all,
The same situation as the electrical licensing changed. None of those were electricians who made that decision. So,
That's something, I guess.
there's that.
We're stuck with it, right?
Until somebody says something enough to have House Bill 830 amended, this is how it reads.
do we have any more copies of these?
Any more copies?
Or
I
can you email this to?
Yeah, I can email it
Oh,
to
that'd
you.
be perfect.
Yeah.
Because I wanna send it out to our contractors that we work with.
Yeah.
That way they're not,
Yeah.
you know, when I hit them with a little bit extra, they know where that's coming from.
It actually has the letter from Queen Anne's County as well.
Oh,
the
great.
email from
I
Vivian.
appreciate that. Just highlights certain things for them. Hey, guys, this is why we're estimating the way we are.
Yeah.
So now you're buying a more expensive vehicle to live in your more expensive house.
But you don't have to buy the vehicle, just have to be ready for it.
It's just ready for it. If they couldn't, yeah. Which we'll probably be thankful 20 years from now. You know?
Yeah.
As that industry changes.
I have a feeling this is gonna get a lot of pushback once it start getting, enacted and going around trades. Gonna be a lot of people that don't want it,
For sure.
They don't have the option to not want it. You gotta have it.
It definitely needs to be amended at least. I don't know why they don't allow MC and why they want a raceway.
Well,
I don't even know.
That
I thought
was,
the code said-
Rick Davis, who I was talking to about this yesterday. He was a Queen Anne's County board member. He's the one that brought up the basement. He's like, you can't run, Romex or MC or anything like that. Like, not according to this. It says raceway.
Right,
MC
how's
is
the
not considered a
wording on it?
raceway,
Yep.
So is Raceway what I would call conduit? Yeah, okay.
Well, raceway includes conduits, cable trays, anything that holds cables.
So some of it has like built in, right? So conduit is actually built into it, there's wires in the thing and you would just install
You
it.
put the conduit in, and then you run wires through the conduit.
Got it. Okay, that's conduit then in my book, all right. I just wasn't, I
But
wasn't,
it says
I wasn't
ra-
sure
it
if
says
Raceway is
raceway.
different from that term.
It's an umbrella term.
Okay,
So there are
Makes sense.
different things you could do. You can do conduit, you could do a cable tray, you could do,
but basically it means the wires can be removed and not, you don't have to open the wall, right? You can pull them out, is that the idea?
it's so that rodents and things, that the wire's not
Oh.
damaged.
Oh,
That's the idea.
yeah, having a mouse bite your 240-watt wire might really be a
Well,
bad idea.
rodents in particular crave the flavor of wire.
Yeah, you were telling me that about squirrels, yeah.
Squirrels, rats, mice, they'll eat it right down to the bare copper and electrocute themselves.
Poor things. Okay, well, thank you for that, Craig, it was helpful.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Hot topic.
Go around with a suit of armor on.
Yeah, yeah. You only hear from me if it's bad news, so here I am.
Okay.
I'd much rather find out this way than a job completely finished and you can
By
ask
the
where
way,
that,
yeah.
where that is, and I look at you like, what are you talking about?
All right, so, this will be part of, what you look for when you do a final inspection on,
A rough-in inspection,
or,
yeah.
wow, gotcha.
Yep.
Well, we've done a lot of where we've run MC or Romex wire to the garage for the 50 amp receptacle for future use already,
Right.
but to put it in that raceway, that's
It's gonna take more
Substantial.
man time to,
That's a
you
substantial
know,
difference,
it's
right?
bending pipe and,
Trying to stay within code for that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Bending pipe, can't use PVC?
Well, you gotta heat it up and bend it, you gotta get through walls and through bottom plates and top
They
plates.
do make a few fittings that we could probably.
pole boxes everywhere.
Gunther said he didn't let us have fittings. Bend it.
Would be faster though.
For sure. All right, that's all I have.
Is that all we have, Brian? Whew, that's enough.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot to digest.
It is.
And,
Got
you know, we'll,
some reading to do.
so, actually, with it being a lot to digest, what I'd like to do is, email you guys the minutes from this meeting, just to help you digest it. You know, before 2 months from now, when we have the meeting again, at least that way, you know, maybe it'll help you, proceed with spreading the word. So, that being said, do we have an emotion to adjourn this meeting?
Are we still doing every other month, first Thursday still?
Yes.
All right.